All right, we are now back. Monday. This is being recorded on Monday after Georgia beating Auburn 31-13. We'll have a recap here in a little bit on the next video that you see. But really, this video is more of a standalone video, and it's talking about Kirby's post game press conference and what he said in there, and then what he said to DJ Shockley and the coaches. I don't even know what room that was in. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
It was like in a weird. It was in a nice room, but it looked fancy. It looked like Butler Cabin. But those comments they said about the fan base and the noise level. I guess. Well, let's start off here. Why don't you give your thoughts? Because I have a lot of them. So why don't you go ahead?
A couple things. Number one, I would say that it was Auburn after a defeat of getting defeated yet again against Alabama. This team not giving this is not an explosive team offensively. You didn't all during the game. You didn't give people really. It was kind of stale. Georgia had a chance after that block punt or block field goal attempt going into halftime. We got the ball back in the third quarter, and we pissed away another chance. So yeah, I get it, Kirby. You need the fans to be elite, but at the same time, y'all got to do your part as well, and this team has to do their part as well. 90 degrees in Sanford Stadium. The game was well in hand. I don't know if people left early, if he's talking about people not being loud during the course of the game. But this, quite honestly, this was a boring game. It was almost a workmanlike game. And so, do the fans deserve some criticism? Sure, that's fine. Maybe they didn't live up to the standard, but neither has this team. And I would also be really careful if I was Kirby, because you want to be able to push the button, and maybe that's what he's setting this up to be, is being able to push the button in another game.
Right.
And so if that's the case, then get more power to him. But I think at the same time, he goes, I can coach better. Well, the team can play better, and the team can give fans a reason to get excited. And honestly, I just haven't seen a whole lot of that from this team this year. So,
well, okay. And Kirby on Monday on his press conference, he kind of cleared it up where he's like, we're a team, we're a family, we're all trying to pull in one direction. That's whenever I came here, that's what we needed. That's what we wanted. And that is true. There has been a lot of, cohesiveness pulling Georgia into one direction, where they are now an elite program. I mean, think about it. Beating Auburn by 18 points now is we should have won by more, disappointing, boring, stale, stuff like that. Though 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case, right?
Sure.
But that's also the difference between Auburn right now then and now. So, but to me, I've been on social media. I've been fighting with people on social media, and there are multiple ways of looking at this. Dean Legge and Ryan Curley said the game, the team sucked, or not the team, but the crowd sucked. They need to do a better job. The Greeks were leaving early. That's always been a thing. Dane Young, who I really don't like that much. I don't agree with his opinion all that much. He started pointing out to Baba O'Reilly before kickoff that it's an old song, and which, again, there's a lot of things I want to say, and behind the scenes I have said, but that's not the problem. Here's the problem. The first problem is the ticket prices are way too damn high. All right? So that falls on the athletic department. That falls on Josh Brooks. And I get that we're in an NIL era and that we need to be competitive and players need to be paid and all that stuff. And there's still program facilities aspect to this where it has to be at an elite level or you're not going to get the recruits. I understand that. But the University of Georgia has a ton of money, and raising ticket prices up 30% whenever you have a shitty home schedule isn't the way to do that.
Yeah.
Which is a part of it too. You have shitty home schedules. And instead of playing Clemson in Atlanta, you should be playing them in Athens and Clemson. Clemson literally had to take a bus from Clemson to Atlanta, and they got on Athens Road to get to Atlanta. They passed Athens. It doesn't make any sense. Same with the Oregon game a couple years ago. Doesn't make sense. So there's that. Home scheduling sucked. Now, next year is supposed to be better. You got Bama, you got Texas. I think you have Ole Miss. So wonderful, fantastic. But there's been a string here of years where it has been terrible home scheduling, and the prices to get in for your average fan who probably would be loud and not be the wine and cheese crowd can't afford it because he can't bring his family and he it's too out of reach. The next thing is don't schedule Auburn for homecoming.
Yeah.
That's so ridiculous to me. We were at the homecoming game against Missouri last year. It was not a very good crowd for a huge game when you look back at it. It was massive, and it was not as loud as it could be or should be. So don't schedule games against homecoming. You have a lot of people that are not tied into the university that are there to see their kids, who don't care at all. They don't live and die. It's just a cute thing for them to do. It's like
and it's also a social thing, right? They're going to be that, yeah.
So you have that, and so you're going to have more of a lackadaisical crowd. So that's another thing. So that all falls on the athletic department. Here's the other thing, and I know we've talked about this. I've talked about it. Dane's point is right about Baba O'Reilly. It is an old song. But it's not Baba O'Reilly that's the problem. I mean, that's been a pretty long-standing tradition. I've been going to Georgia football games for over 20 years. You way more than me. I don't know when that tradition started, but it's been around since I've been going to games.
No, it was under Rick, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So, okay, my whole lifetime, right? We can just say that. So it's been over 20 years. So that's not the problem. The problem is playing fucking Twisted Sister. We're not going to take it anymore for karaoke cam. No one, first of all, that song is lame and it sucks. And I don't even think people in the 80s really thought it was a cool kick-ass song, but they do it. And then it's 3rd and 8 Auburn on the Georgia's 48. Well, how's that going to get fired up? Or Snapchat cam. And then you have a random ass like Silver Circle member who gets jerked off at the 25-yard line in between TV timeouts, or some random biology professor who's done work in cells mutating, and they get a round of applause whenever it's 3rd and 8. And we got to stop Auburn. That's not how you get the crowd involved into the game, dumbasses. It's really simple. So the game day presentation sucks. And I saw Bill King. This is what, honestly, this stuff just aggravates the shit out of me. But Bill King gets on his blog on AJC, and you should go read it because it's an interesting point. I disagree with it wholeheartedly, but he's like, the music was too loud. It was too loud to have a conversation. Who the fuck? You can have a conversation anytime other of the day. It's Georgia football. For 3 hours. We sit here in February and we bemoan that it's February and we want football back, and you're going to have a fucking conversation? Pay attention to the game. And you got kids in the stands jacking off for Vanderbilt beating Alabama, which is embarrassing within itself, and we can talk about that later. And they're getting distracted by the game breaks. Game breaks should be on during TV timeouts, not whenever there's action on the field.
Yeah, it was a distraction to the players because you see Carson Beck had to motion to his fellow teammates of, hey, we're not watching that stuff, because I think the fans reacted to it. All the players started looking around to see what was going on.
Which doesn't matter. And so game day presentation stinks. Allow the players to pick the music. Allow the student section to pick the music. Who cares if Grandpa Joe, who's had season tickets since '64, likes the music or not? Your time's past, old man. The student section and the players create the environment. It's college football, guys. It's really not that hard. I was there in 2022 when we played Tennessee. I was a student. And guess what? Kirby asked the team or the crowd to be loud. It wasn't, by the way, it wasn't because I was sitting right next to season ticket holders in section 108. I've sat there many a times. They weren't at the beginning of the game, whenever we fumbled that or turned the ball over. I can't remember if it was a fumble or interception. I think it was a fumble by Stetson. When we fumbled and Tennessee got the ball back on a short field, they weren't getting up and cheering. It was the student section who created that. You got to have the student section involved, and they're not doing a good job of doing that. They'll show up for big games, but if Georgia's winning by more than 2 touchdowns, they're going to leave by the third quarter, which is a problem within itself. And that's just a culture thing. That's always been at the University of Georgia for God knows how long.
That was there in the early '90s and the mid '90s when I was there.
Right, and it was there the entire time I was there. So that hasn't changed. But in-game entertainment sucks. And here's the other thing that bothers me. And I guess this is a very minor one, but it actually does matter. It does matter in the grand scheme of things. We got people that are coming to the University of Georgia with 0 ties to the university, and a lot of them are transplants from the Northeast. Their families are. And they have no ties to the University of Georgia. I do. Now, I had to work to get in there, but I have ties. You went there. Your dad, my grandfather went there. And I care. I care whether we win or lose. And it bothers me to my core when we lose and when we don't play well. And it didn't matter if it was Mark Richt or Kirby Smart. It doesn't matter. I care. And you have people that are students that are transplants that do not care, that have no ties. So, of course, they're not going to get loud because they expect Georgia, because they just found Georgia on their radar in 2021 or 2018, whenever this thing started turning. They weren't there for 2006.
Down here during COVID or after COVID, and their kids went the last couple of years of high school. There's actually a really unrelated to football at all, but to your point, there was a recent article, and I don't know where it was at, but I glanced at it, didn't read the whole thing, but it was all about people, even in the Northeast and Midwest and West Coast, sending their kids to Southeastern schools because they get more value, even though it's out of state. And also they're not as likely to be taught these woke agendas, and it's more of a traditional college experience.
Well,
that's the reason you're getting people coming into, to your point, a lot of people, I've been to games, but homecoming games specifically, where you're sitting around people and they're all talking about their kids and they don't know anything about the University of Georgia.
No, and that's a major problem.
Yeah, but you better not have a big portion of that being your crowd.
Well, and here's the problem. The University of Georgia has done that recently. And I honestly, I don't know why. I mean, I do kind of understand it, but also at the same time, we got to get people that care about the university to be in the university. And we don't. And if you cut me up, it would be all Georgia. And I think the same with you. And it really bothers me. It bothered me whenever I went there and whenever I graduated. It bothered me before, that people who know nothing about the traditions and the history of not just Georgia football, which whatever, but the SEC, the history of the college, the University of Athens, that bothers me. And it's a minor thing, and it's not on the list of things that need to be fixed immediately. Game day atmosphere needs to be fixed. The presentation does, but it's a step in the right direction.
I'm older than you, so I'm probably more along with the guy that you said, Grandpa, it's not about you. But I have never gone to the stadium and said, outside of going to Kentucky Stadium and hearing how they mix match all the songs together, but I've never gone to the stadium and going, boy, that music was just not good. But so I don't pay any attention to that. So to me, if you don't have to your point, if you don't have the players and the student section into it, you're missing an opportunity to get energy. And by the way, ironically enough, I've never been to a game in Auburn, but I would like to, just to see the experience. They say that that game day experience inside the stadium is a full out party. And I know people talk about Jordan-Hare being one of the more difficult places to play. So I'd like to see what Auburn is doing that's dramatically, but it must be different than what we're doing at Georgia.
I'll tell you one thing is they allow the student section to pick out the music each week. They have people that they like I guess the Greeks. I don't know how they really do it, but they allow the students to pick the music, which I would assume if the students are picking the music, the players probably like that music as well. So, I mean, that's just a small thing, but the amount of professors that get jerked off during the game, and then the Snapchat cam with the stupid CGI bulldog on their head. Who gives a rat's ass about that? I never understood that. Georgia has always gotten that wrong. You know how many times? I mean, I know you might not remember because these are things that I notice. But like, you remember when they had that chick that used to be on the local news, Heather Catlin, and she would do the in-game like entertainment, and she would have like a microphone. It was there for like a couple.
Yes, I do. Yes.
And so they've never gotten it right. They have never gotten it right, and it's always been controlled by the older Georgia fans, who also were the ones who have fought Kirby on the indoor or not Kirby, but the practice facility upgrades with Richt and bemoaning that. So, and we do things the Georgia way. Well, okay, there is something to that, but also we're getting our asses handed to us by Alabama at that point in time. Still kind of are. So I guess it's all recyclable. But that's the problem. And to your point, the offense sucks. We can just say it.
And the defense doesn't. They don't. There was no turn. I mean, we're not turning the ball over. You're not giving big plays for the fans,
right?
And then when you do get a big play, you don't. The team doesn't capitalize on it. But anyway, that's part of it.
Sorry, I wanted to make one more point because to your point, that's a good point. So a lot of people are like, well, okay, Kirby, you have to give us a reason to cheer. I'm going to cough. I'm going to mute myself for a second. And they're totally right. But there's also a subsection of Georgia fans who are like, you're supposed to cheer irregardless of the team, and you shouldn't put down Georgia and blah, 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 blah. I read one Facebook post. It made me, it really wanted me to take that person and just choke slam them. Because, first of all, you never played sports competitively, okay? That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm not a cheer bot. Not everything that Georgia does is just, I'm just overjoyed by it. I'm just gobsmacked by everything Kirby. If Kirby takes a piss in the morning, I'm just enthusiastic over it. I don't get those people. I never have. And there's a lot of people like that. And it's kind of weird to me because as a fan, you're not objective, but you have to have some objectivity and to be critical.
When your team's not playing well and they're not living up to the standard that, by the way, we have been told to expect.
Yeah.
Yes. Then it's absolutely fair to be critical in an era, especially with NIL and these coaches getting paid millions of dollars, which
and the players are getting paid.
And the players, I don't begrudge them. I want them all to make money, but it gives me the right when I see shit that isn't right. I don't have to be, to your point, a cheer bot. And anybody that thinks that is a fan is short for fanatic. We're fanatical. We want our teams to be perfect. And we understand that's not going to always happen. But we expect at Georgia a certain level of execution. And we've been told to expect that.
Yes.
And we're not seeing it. So you can call us out, and maybe some of it's deserved, but as far as the fan base. But at the same time, there's some accountability on the coaches and the players' part as well in this.
Totally. And to the fans that are like, well, Georgia fans are spoiled. Well, yeah, but here's the thing, guys. Georgia fans have always been spoiled.
Oh, we care.
Because we care. And we expect you to have a certain – I remember whenever Mark Richt – it was years before he ever got fired. It was like 08, 09. It was somewhere in there. The team got booed at halftime. They have always been spoiled. Guess what? There was years where we weren't competitive. So I don't understand this whole thing of like, well, Georgia fans weren't – these fans weren't around whenever we weren't winning any national championships. They don't know how to be fans. What is that?
Yeah.
What? It doesn't make any sense.
They weren't around. Yeah, I was, and I still bitched.
Yeah.
And I still was critical when it was warranted.
Yeah. I don't understand that. So I think it's a hodgepodge of everyone's wrong. And I know I've talked a lot, but this is something that has bothered me from – for a long since I've been really aware of this stuff and seeing how other SEC teams and other teams in the country do their stuff. Georgia is elite when it wants to be elite. 2017 Mississippi State, that was an elite crowd. Arkansas 2021, Notre Dame 2019, Tennessee in 22, LSU 2013,
Arkansas
21. Kentucky 21. I'm sure I'm missing some games. I'm definitely missing some games where we were at where the crowd was elite, but it can be an elite atmosphere. It can be up there with Death Valley, the Swamp, Neyland, Osman Stadium in Oregon. It could be up there. Happy Valley in Penn State. It could be up there, but you don't do things to make it successful, and you have bad atmospheres or a bad game day presentation, and so that's what happens. And they've never gotten it right, and I don't know if they are. But Kirby's right. The crowd wasn't a factor, and it should be, and that's a disappointment.
No, but again, I come back to it. I think we have talked about it. Has been very conscious in the media. When Kirby needs to pull the trigger and push that button, I think he'll have all the fans in a position to be riled up if the team starts playing better and they're still in contention.
Well, okay, and Georgia this year will probably be up in contention. I don't think we have to dispute that, but will the crowd be any better than it was against Auburn than it would be in Mississippi State? I don't think so.
I don't. Again, it's all works as complementary fandom and game and execution by the players. If they come out and they're executing on all cylinders and they look crisp and they're causing turnovers and hitting big plays or putting together consistent drives, then yeah, I can see it getting a whole lot better. It's probably cooler, by the time we're playing. All these things play into it. So yeah, I think it can be better at Mississippi State.
I don't know. I mean, you got a 1-4 team coming in, limping in, and Georgia is over a 30-point favorite. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be much better. Tennessee, yeah, I think it'll be a lot better, but that's the only marquee game that you can point to that's worth anything.
No, you could be right. That may be the button he's looking to push.
Well, he could have waited till November, instead of us fighting before we play Mississippi State and Texas. Anyway, so that's our take on that. I think we've covered it pretty extensively. Remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on Terminus Sports _ATL on all social media. Check out X, Twitter, whatever Elon decided to name it. I've been fighting back and forth, so who knows what will happen next. So check us out there. Like and subscribe, comment, tell us why we're right, tell us what's wrong. Tell us what you think needs to be fixed. I'm open for anything at this point. I think I'm interested. I've been reading Twitter all day about people's suggestions on how things need to be fixed, and I agree with a lot of them. So comment below if you have an idea that is different than ours. And then check out Unishippers Atlanta and give a shout out to who?
Marcus Gore.
All right, give a shout out to Marcus. All right, see you on the other video.